So the intro to this video is just one of the many what seem to be disjointed cutscenes and parts of the game that is Dave the Diver. But I believe that does it kind of injustice as to what Dave the Diver is. Typically, I have a script that I do, at least in some cases, loosely follow. I can't think of anything as some things I just don't think of as I'm writing it down. But every time I keep going over and over and over this loose script that I typically follow, it's just impossible for me to get everything in the game into the script for a review. My thoughts are all completely disjointed as well about what Dave the Diver is, and once again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the best way to describe what kind of game Dave the Diver is by taking a look at the game as a whole from the outside. You have a very definitive gameplay style loop. You have 3 portions of the day: morning, afternoon, and evening. And in those portions of the day, you can go for the morning and afternoon. You can take care of either the diving aspect of the game, catching fish for your sushi restaurant, or take care of other ways to procure your ingredients for Bancho Sushi. Speak to NPCs, gather new missions and tasks to do, and then the evening comes around, and that's when you primarily run the restaurant, or you can spend a third of it also night diving. And some particular task will require you to dive at night as well. But outside of that, as you continue playing Dave the Diver, more and more things start happening that you can do. No longer during the day are you just diving or speaking to characters at the bar. You're also managing a farm for rice, you're managing a fish farm, you're managing an underwater sea farm for seaweed. And at night, you're night fishing for special ingredients that you can only get at night, or you're running the bar itself. And combined in all of this thing are a bunch of little different mini games, and that's really what the farm management stuff is it's a mini game. And I think when I realized what Dave the Diver actually is what comes after that intro that I played, and that entire gameplay sequence is Mint Rocket went to the Yakuza, like a dragon school of game design. There is that cohesive, hard, set-in-stone gameplay element, the same 3 portion of the day cycle, where you have exactly what you need to do, but then more and more and more keeps getting added onto that. And it was at this moment that that's what I realized it actually was. And while this definitely might not be for everybody, and anybody who likes the Yakuza, or as it is now, the Like a Dragon series, this game you really will enjoy this game. It is essentially the overall gameplay mechanic: swimming around, diving, then serving food, refilling drinks, scraping some wasabi, and a little bit of not really quick time events, but just button prompts you're pressing there, which isn't really outside of what you're doing when you're brawling in the old school or Yakuzas, or, selecting the correct inputs in the Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon, for your attacks. And outside of that, it is a bunch of small mini games, such as seahorse racing, the rhythm game at the concert in Duff's Dreams. And the character designs also really come from that area, as the area of thought I think of it as well, is they're all completely over the top. They're all extremely unique, from the very money hungry, takes advantage of every situation to make a profit Cobra, to Duff, your weapons expert, who is just an over-the-top otaku who is present in this minigame that you for some reason start taking part of, to the sea people that you meet on later, Suwam, who is really boisterous and believes that he is just the best warrior in the city and what other people say about that doesn't really affect him. He is confident that that is who he is. To Bancho, the mysterious yet extremely talented sushi chef. And all the other side characters you come across, even the VIP characters that you serve custom meals to as small side tasks to do, are really out there as well. I think my favorite one was Michael Bang, who is directing his next movie, The Stone. Definitely not Michael Bay directing The Rock. No, not at all. And it's just hard for me to actually have a script that really encompasses how all of these seemingly disjointed elements come together to make one of the absolute most cohesive and best games I've played. And it was, like I said, at this dream concert sequence, so I realized this is just an indie sort of Yakuza without the crime syndicates and family. You are a sea diver catching fish and harvesting vegetation underwater and helping run a sushi restaurant. And then all of this stuff happens on the side that you can completely ignore. You can ignore the farms. You can ignore the mini games. You can ignore the fish farm, the seaweed farm. You don't have to participate in that, but you can, and it just adds so much more to the game. Even catching some of the fish are small, like little button prompt quick time events, like press these 2 buttons in this order to catch the fish, or wiggle your joystick back and forth, or mash A, or spin the joystick clockwise or counterclockwise. That's all in here. It's all really reminiscent of what I enjoyed about the Yakuza games, is that you have this base game, and then all of these completely seemingly disjointed things on the side that come together to make one of the just best packages in a game that you can have. And I really think that Dave the Diver falls into that sort of game. Dave the Diver is just an indie Yakuza game, except you're not, in the Yakuza. You're not in a crime family. You're just a guy catching fish to run a sushi restaurant. So with that rant out of the way, let's take a look at why I think Dave the Diver is a fantastic game. So, visually, it's a very old schoolish style pixely art. There are a few 3D elements into it, boats mainly. Then you have some underwater creatures that are 3D as well at times. So, I think it's just because it's easier to not only animate those, but it also creates kind of like an odd, weird thing like a giant squid. A giant squid seems kind of out there and can have like kind of a horror element to it if you're just a small, normal person. Well, it's in 3D. It's completely disjointed from the rest of the aesthetic of the game, but for a purpose, I believe. Same with the giant eels or the giant Cylons. Just many other things in the game. Most of it is the nice pixel art, and a few things are just 3D out of necessity, I believe, for animation, or just because I wanted to, but it all works very well together. And this pixel art does carry over to the numerous little quick, quirky cutscenes, whether it be you're serving a VIP customer, such as the aforementioned Michael Bang, who has like a mini sort of Food Wars-esque cinematic after he eats the food and it speaks to him in another manner, minus all of the peanut butter covered squid tentacles grouping a naked girl. But it really speaks to that with all of the VIP characters. They all have this sort of short cinematic thing where that food means something to them and brings something out in them. Or if it's Bancho learning a new recipe from just spending his time sharpening his blade and chopping up the food in the kitchen as it zooms out to the restaurant as a whole, and you see flashes of lights and slices of wind come out. Or as he's holding up his blade and sakura petals fall from the roof and slice across the blade of a knife, and then it slowly zooms in on a fish that looks like it's screaming for help, and the background just fades to black. These are all bizarre, but work wonderfully within this game, and even especially the stuff with Duff. Duff is such a weird weird character. Just an otaku gun manufacturing nut who's just there to make you guns and upgrade them as you can. Some of his cutscenes are fantastic as well, from reminiscent of I can't even remember the name of the painting, man reaching out and touching God, him reaching out and touching his robotic arm that's manufacturing guns for him. It's all really well thought out and perfectly done. All the characters are well designed. You know exactly who you're looking at of all the important characters when they come on screen, with or without a name, with or without a giant screen, like freeze frame screen introduction of them. You know who they are. But once you see them, you know. They're all designed differently, and they're all designed well. Plus, the environments are really good. From the shallows of the blue hole to the depths to the village, the underwater people's undersea people, underwater people's village, to the glacier depths. It's all fantastic. The Glacier Pass. Everything is designed perfectly. All the vegetation, it flows extremely smoothly despite it being pixelated art. The fish move and look fantastic. The weapons and equipment that you use all look and move fantastically. Everything is very responsive for a pixel game, which is kind of important if you're working in a three-dimensional space like that. Well, I guess it's two-dimensional, but a 360-degree space where you move around in circles because you're underwater, you're swimming, you're diving. And I really can't say much more on the visuals. They're perfectly fantastic for this game, and without a script it is really hard to go off on this, but that's just how I need to feel like I need to review this game, is kind of disjointed and bring it all together, much like the game itself has done. Audibly, the game, sound-wise, the music's all really nice. Most of the music is kind of serene, a little bit of, I don't know, tropicalness to the soundtrack. The sound effects all sound great, whether they're underwater or if you're in your bar or doing anything else on your various farms, your fish farm, your rice farm, your seaweed farm. The characters are not voiced. They kind of speak as what you would expect from, like, I don't know, a Peanuts cartoon. How the adults all go wah 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 wah. Well, that's just kind of what the voices do in here. They all have different tones, so you can tell who's who. Writing-wise, there's not much writing in the game, but what writing there is done very well, especially when it comes to all the VIP characters. They all come in, they're all extremely unique, and they're all fantastic to deal with. From Otto, who quickly becomes your farm master for both the fish farm and the rice farm, to what's her name, Molly, I can't remember her name, who becomes like a chef under Bancho, who you can train up and help with as well. Her writing is done well. She is just a lost child looking for some sort of structure. I won't get into why, and you're able to help do that by, first coming in as a VIP character, a VIP customer, feeding her what she desires, and going from there. The story overall is pretty simple. It starts off, you're just diving to catch food, and then stuff just starts piling on. All of a sudden, you're helping a ecological researcher. Then all of a sudden, you're helping a archaeologist who's looking for a lost civilization. Then you're accounting a group of eco-terrorists who, no matter what kind of destruction they cause in their attempt to stop you, they blame that destruction on you because they caused it trying to stop you. And then you have your underwater people, your sea people, and their story as well. It's all really simple, but it all works well, and all the good writing goes into the various characters you interact with, because otherwise the story is very simple and very mundane. But it's the characters around it that lend support to that make it a really interesting story and really fun to play through. Not to mention all the side quests and all the quirky little side characters you help with their side tasks as well. Gameplay-wise, it's really hard to just describe the gameplay-wise easy. At a base, there are 3 phases: morning, afternoon, and evening. Morning and afternoon, you start off, you dive into the blue hole, you swim around, you use your harpoon gun to catch fish. That's what you do. You take those fish in then, that you caught with the morning and afternoon, to the restaurant. Then you set up your menu, based on how much fish you caught, how many servings you can serve, and then you deliver those to the customers who order them. It's just running back and forth. It's not overly complicated. From there, it gets a little more complex. You have drinks to fill up. You have wasabi to keep freshly ground for the sushi to be able to make the food for the people. But eventually, you start hiring people to help with all of those processes. Extra cooks to help cook more food to deliver to the more customers coming in. Extra servers to help transport the food and back. And then all of these people have different skills that they have. So your servers can also help specialize in serving drinks or refilling the wasabi. Stuff like that. And then it continues to expand outward. You have your base gameplay loop there in the middle. Swimming, catching fish, and serving food, and it expands. Then during the day, you eventually have your fish farm, where you breed different types of fish based on the depth that goes to. You can harvest them or sell them for money for your upgrade systems, or your interior decoration, whatever you want. Hiring your employees, who cares? You have your rice farm, which you have to, take care of weeds, pull them out, grow other plants to use. You have your seaweed farm, same thing. Then you also have during the day, you can go to the sea people village, the underwater people village, sea people, I think that's what they're called. I can't remember right now. My game is such a jumble because my brain is such a jumble because of this game. And all of this you're doing as you're spending your time trying to catch these fish during the day. Then eventually you have 1/3 of the night where you can go fishing. It takes up 1/3 of your restaurant's operating hours. So some stuff can only be found at night. So you take that time sometimes at night to stock up on those various fishes. And from there it just keeps going and keeps expanding with a bunch of mini side games like seahorse racing. Seahorse racing is just actively managing your seahorse's stamina and keeping it in the green to go faster than the other ones. All of the different harpoon types have different little quick time events, mini games you play as you're catching fish based on the harpoon type, from poisoning where you spin in a circle, to paralysis where you wiggle the joystick back and forth, to just electrocuting or just catching normally where you're just mashing the button or timing the button pressed for max voltage application. And speaking of equipment, you can also upgrade it, and that's where your money comes in, is upgrading your equipment. Your base life is just oxygen. Your base life is oxygen. So that dictates how long you can stay underwater and how much damage you can take from various things in the sea, from like predatory fish and sharks to environmental hazards. Swimming faster, it takes more oxygen up as you use. There's various items that can restore it, but upgrading the oxygen capacity is pretty much how you'll get more life and how you'll have more time to spend fishing. Along with this, you can upgrade your harpoon gun to do more damage as you attempt to catch fish and make that easier, or just take down sharks faster and other dangerous sea life as you come across it. Your suit. Upgrading your suit allows you to dive deeper into different areas. This will allow you to consume less oxygen as you go into other areas. So while you don't necessarily need to upgrade your suit to go into the depths, if you don't upgrade your suit to go into the depths, your oxygen drains faster because that is your life. Now you don't necessarily just normally die in Dave the Diver. If you do lose all your oxygen, you are rescued by Cobra, but you only get to keep one item as you're hauled out. And that takes us to carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is also important, because the lower your carrying capacity is, the less you can take back up with you from each dive. There, you can upgrade this through your gear upgrade system. Occasionally, you can find a one-time use box from Cobra, which allows you to store a little bit of the weight and then have that taken up after you ascend as well, separate from your carrying capacity on your character on Dave. That's the other main limiting factor on how long you can dive. And my god, I just realized how long I'm taking to review Dave the Diver. Dave the Diver is fantastic, okay? And from here you have all your side minigames. The dream concerts with Duff, the seahorse racing, and the sea people village to get more currencies down there to buy seeds and upgrade your gear at the blacksmith there. Foraging specific parts of fish, like tigerfish brills, claws, I don't know what they're called, but that's how you upgrade your various underwater guns to be more useful. So from dealing just more flat damage to being a tranquilizer gun to dealing elemental damage such as shock, paralysis, flame, or poison, stuff like that. I really can't recommend Dave the Diver enough. And I think that really does extend to a broad audience as well as fans of the Yakuza or Like a Dragon series, just because all of those just disjointed items, gameplay loops, are brought together in a very small cohesive package. And Mint Rocket really nailed it. They really set it out the park on this one. It's a great first game for them. I believe it's the first game from them. Let me take a look here. Even if it's not a first game from them, they really, really nailed it. Well, they have a couple other games. Kart Rider, Maple. Oh, this is showing their parent company, Nexon. Yeah, so we don't worry about that. Mint Rocket, as a developer, was paid by Nexon to develop an indie title, and they did a fantastic job. So don't let your hatred of Nexon really cloud your view of what Dave the Diver is. Dave the Diver is a fantastic title and is currently on sale from the Steam summer sale. 10% off at $17.99 rather than the normal $19.99, but at $20.99 definitely also worth the full package deal because you're going to get hours and hours and hours of fun out of this title. It's very calm, it's very relaxing, and there are plenty of things to do. And like I said, all of these random, seemingly disjointed gameplay loops come together in a very tight, fun, cohesive package.